Welcome to the Vibrant You Health Show with your host, Blake Bars. At Nature's Pantry, our mission is to lead you to vibrant health through the best nutrition, supplementation, service, expertise, and healthy choices. In this show, we aren't interested in fads or quick fixes. Rather, we want to get into the holistic fundamentals of health. We want to answer questions like, what are the underlying causes to health issues, and what solutions can help lead us to vibrant health? You can watch every episode and listen to the podcast by visiting our website at naturespantry.life. The Vibrant You Health Show is brought to you by Terry Naturally Vitamins and Solar Ray Vitamins. At Nature's Pantry, we strive to work only with companies that maintain the highest standards for quality and efficacy. Terry Naturally and Solar Ray are two of the absolute best.
3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome to episode 40 of the Vibrant You Health Show. I am so privileged to have my special guest today, Darren Landis, the founder of Hyalogic, the leader in hyaluronic acid. Darren, thank you so much for joining me.
Man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate your show and what you're doing for the community and the people and educating. I listened to that last show that you guys did. It was fantastic. So hopefully we can share some good news and some information to your listeners.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I know you have a lot of expertise in the area of hyaluronic acid, so I'm looking forward to what we can learn together and what we can share with the folks listening. So tell me a little bit about how you got into hyaluronic acid. How did you learn about it and its benefits for the body?
Well, it's interesting. My background, we were doing home health care, and we were taking care of a lot of people in the home environment. We had some people that were telling us that, they just didn't feel like their joints were as flexible as they used to be, almost kind of like they were losing the cushion or the lubrication, and a friend of ours said, hey, I know a little bit about hyaluronic acid. Have you guys ever heard about that? And we said, we know a little bit about the molecule, but we didn't understand that maybe you could take it as a dietary supplement that would help with, cushioning and lubricating the joints. And so our friend Tom and Mark and myself, we got together and we created a company where we started making vitamin supplements with the hyaluronic acid. And back then it was just for joint lubrication and cushioning. And our goal is to help our people that we took care of at home. We were saying, hey, if you need a little bit of help moving around and getting flexible and feeling like you just want your joints to get back to the way they used to be, hyaluronic acid could be the option. And so we started working on this product at the same time we were doing our home healthcare business. And then we just kind of morphed this product into developing hyaluronic acid products, not only for humans, but we started creating products for animals. Small animals do really well with hyaluronic acid, dogs and cats, and even large animals. We make products for horses too. I remember the first trade show that I went to 20 years ago. I was standing there with our liquid hyaluronic acid product, and I was trying to get people to come past our booth. I said, hey, come on over, learn about hyaluronic acid. And I was lucky to find 5 people out of that whole trade show that knew anything about hyaluronic acid. And fast forward 20 years later, you can't turn on the TV without seeing a commercial about hyaluronic acid, or you go into your doctor's office and you'll read some information about hyaluronic acid. I think last time I checked, there was close to maybe a 500,000 people that are searching for the terms hyaluronic acid online. And so now everybody's talking about it, but back then, very few people were. But our goal was just to give people an alternative to maybe the joint supplements that they were taking back then to help their joints and provide that benefit.
Right. Very cool. So you got in at the grassroots at the very beginning of the deal, and you gotta see some benefits from it from some of the folks you are working with, and you saw firsthand some of the issues people we deal with as we age. So tell me a little bit about the aging process and how hyaluronic acid works in the body, what its role is, and why as we age does that stop working as well?
Well, okay, so inside of almost every living cell in our body, we're producing this molecule we call hyaluronic acid. And once it gets produced inside of every living cell, then it sneaks outside of the cell wall. It kind of maneuvers its way through the cell wall, and it starts to get into the surrounding body water. Last I checked, we're about 70% body water. And so the number one kind of nature behind this molecule is that it loves to turn water into a gel, a syrupy, gelatinous-like, cushiony gel. And so this molecule, wherever there's body water, you're probably most likely going to find hyaluronic acid there. It's going to turn that water into a gel format. And so we naturally are producing hyaluronic acid as we speak. Some people, they classify it as a sugar molecule. Some people call it a long chain sugar, a polysaccharide. It is very unique. When you take a look at this molecule, it takes on a linear or rope. It looks like these teeny tiny little rope-like structures, and it can bind up to 1,000 times its own weight in water. So each molecule that we produce inside of our cells, it sneaks outside of those cell walls and it starts to bind to water, and it starts to interact with that water. Now you get millions of these molecules of hyaluronic acid into one area. They bind to water, they turn that water into a gelatinous gel, syrupy, cushiony, lubricating, space-filling fluid. So I'm sitting in my chair right here, and it's pushing in on the hyaluronic acid. As soon as I get up, it's going to push that fluid back out again. So whenever we put pressure on it, it squeezes, and when we take the pressure off, it goes back out. But here's the downside. Even though you and I are naturally making hyaluronic acid as we speak, our bodies are going to slowly drop off and decline on the production of this water-loving, moisturizing molecule in the body. So we wear T-shirts sometimes at the trade shows. It says, "You're losing it." And people are like, "What am I losing?" I know I'm kind of losing my mind every once in a while. We say, "You're losing the amount of hyaluronic acid in your body." As you get older, where it is not producing as much, this inside of our cells, we're not making it like we used to. And so when we don't produce as much of this water-loving, water-binding, water-thickening, stabilizing molecule in the body, then we start to have a drying out effect in the body. So aging essentially is drying out, or drying out is aging. And now they're looking at this molecule that loves water, and they're saying, this is probably the answer as to why we're aging. We've got to try to find some way to keep it into the body, whether it be topically applying it in skincare or taking it internally. But we are on a slow decline. So now they're saying that by the time we reach 50, we're producing about 50% of the hyaluronic acid we were producing when we were in our 20s. So we are kind of dropping off as we get older, and we just want to find some way to compensate. That's why we call them dietary supplements, because it's supplementing our body where our bodies leave off.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So really, like, the aging process is a drying out in a way, like you said. Where we're losing moisture, right? And hence we kind of, if you see a grape dry out, it turns into a raisin, and that kind of is how we wrinkle up and lose the moisture in the body. It sounds like hyaluronic acid kind of helps, because water itself is pretty, fluid. It doesn't tend to stick around in places. It'll flush through the body, it seems like. But maybe hyaluronic acid is kind of gelling it up so that it stays in place in the parts of the body that it needs to be, like in the joints and in the skin and in your eyes and in your mouth and etc. Is that your assessment?
That's a beautiful way to put it. You're exactly correct. Because a lot of times when I'm doing trainings, I'll tell people, they say, "Well, why does the water in our body need to be nice and thick and syrupy?" And I say, so it can stay compartmentalized. It can stay in our skin for space filling, dermal filling. It can stay in our joints for cushioning and lubrication. It can stay inside of our eyes for maintaining the shape or the stability of our eyes. It can stay in our lips for plumpness. It can stay in our gum tissues for plumpness. It can stay throughout our whole body. And I tell people, if you didn't have hyaluronic acid, you'd lay down at night. In theory, you'd lay down at night, wake up the next morning, you'd look like a blob on the bed, because all the water would have drained to the base of your body, and you'd have to get up and kind of push it all back into certain spots of your body each morning. But because of the gelatinous structure, so flour thickens gravy, hyaluronic acid thickens body water, so it stays compartmentalized.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Where we live here in Eastern Oregon, it's called high desert. A lot of people say, they're like, "Oh, you're from Oregon, it rains a lot, and you got crazy politics or whatever." But actually out in Eastern Oregon, we're a more rural area, and we are actually what's called high desert. So once you get east of the Cascades, the rain stops so much, and we're pretty dry. And one of the things we wrestle with, especially in the winter, is dry skin and dehydration. And so I think particularly people in our region that are going to be listening to this show, that's something we all deal with. I know in the wintertime I'm washing my hands, and a lot of these soaps and stuff we use actually, I think, really don't do us any favors. They're kind of drawing moisture out of the skin. And so, figuring out a way to keep that moisture in the skin better with a skin product that has hyaluronic acid, or taking it internally. But yeah, it's almost like, I've always heard it said that every system in the entire body functions best when it's hydrated. And that goes back to also just making sure we drink water, right? Because you could have hyaluronic acid in all you could want in your body, and if you're not drinking the water, it's not going to have anything to use. And one of the things I think that our society in general is dealing with is chronic dehydration. You're supposed to drink half your body weight in ounces. I weigh 160, so I drink 80 ounces a day. If you weigh 200, that's 100 ounces a day. And I know at first, when I was drinking that much water, I started measuring it, because we do these health challenges where you track your points and so when I started measuring it, I was like, because before I was like, oh, I drink enough water. And then when I measured, I was like, oh, actually, I was just lying to myself. I actually don't. And once I started drinking that amount of water, I had to pee all the time. But the other day, I also watered a plant that was dehydrated, and the water went straight through it. But as the plant starts to get watered regularly and gets hydrated, the water doesn't go straight through it anymore. And the same with me. After 2 weeks of drinking that much water, the water stopped going straight through me. And now if I don't get 80 ounces in a day, I feel dehydrated. Like, I notice it.
Yeah, there was one guy, I was reading an article a long time ago. He was an orthopedic doctor one time. I think he wrote an article about hydrating your joints back to health by just drinking water, and then, so that was kind of interesting, because we were like, okay, we're working on the cushion, we're working on the fluid for the joints. This is an interesting article that he wrote, it's about just making sure you have adequate water intake on board, and oftentimes people ask us, say, do you need to overconsume, or do you need to drink a whole lot of water for this hyaluronic acid to work? And we'll tell them, no, just drink your normal daily intake of water. But we have seen people that do say, you know what, I noticed when I was drinking the more water that my skin felt like it was more hydrated with the hyaluronic acid. So yeah, you're right. And the other thing is too, is they say to, when you're drinking water, that you don't guzzle it down. You kind of sip it. What is it? A couple of ounces every 10 minutes or something like that, so that your body has time to process it and it doesn't just leak out. Because that plant that you were pouring water into, if you could go slow, it could probably kind of absorb more versus coming out the bottom.
Right, for sure. Yes, absolutely. And I heard you reference that the body is 70% water, and actually different parts of the body are more water than others. I think the brain is like 80%, there's 60% or some of the lessers, but it's a high amount. And any way we can retain some of that water so that it's not just going through it. And it sounds like hyaluronic acid is a great thing for that.
Hey, it's Nicole Haggerty, your holistic health and fitness coach. If you want to improve your health and life and get lasting results, you have to be the change you want to see. Let me help you be that change. Find me at NicoleHaggerty.com.
Hey, Eastern Oregon. My name is Justin Hernandez. I specialize in sports performance training for middle school, high school, and college athletes. My program goal is to optimize an athlete's potential on all playing surfaces. The Breakfast Club motto is creating elite athletes, but even better leaders.
This is Summer Steele of Body Say Ursa. I am a licensed massage therapist and certified personal trainer. I work with bodies of all shapes, sizes, and abilities to help them live a fuller and freer life. Connect with me on Instagram and Facebook under Body Say Ursa, Body SAORSA, or contact me at 541-786-5245.
My name is Blake Bars, and I'm General Manager of Nature's Pantry here in La Grande. I had a terribly unhealthy lifestyle when I started working here. I just didn't know how simple and powerful healthy habits could be. Now I love being able to lead others to vibrant health here at the store, through the health show, and in the health challenges we host twice per year. Learn more at naturespantry.life.
Hey friends, Lacey here with Wild Holistic Nutrition and Fitness. As a certified personal trainer and holistic nutritionist with 17 years of experience, I'm passionate about guiding others in their journey to wellness. I work in the areas of sports performance, group and individual fitness, personal training, behavioral and nutritional coaching, and gut biodome health and assessment. I'd love to help you feel good so that you can thrive and meet the purpose you were made for.
Tim James here, founder of ChemicalFreeBody.com and host of the Health Hero Show. After regaining my own health and having massive gut issues and surgery, I'm on a mission to help others do the same. If you're ready to make your health a priority, lose that weight, increase your energy, and just wake up and feel good, you can reach me at ChemicalFreeBody.com.
Now, let's talk a little bit about how it supports different parts of the body. Joints, I know it sounds like from my reading and research, and some of the stuff I read that you've put together, some of the videos and some of the flyers that you have that really go into the details. It seems like it's good for quite a different areas of the body. Could you get into a little specifics on why it's good for, say, like the eyes, the joints, the skin, the mouth, oral care, etc.?
Yeah, let's start with the joints. So as we're moving around each and every day, we're gliding on thick syrupy water, and that thick syrupy water is hyaluronic acid and water combined together. It's called synovial fluid. So inside of all of our large movable joints, we've got a lubricating fluid in there, and it keeps the bones just gliding right across one another. And that fluid in there, when you compress it and squeeze it, as soon as you take the pressure off, it sponges back out into shape. So it really is kind of like the motor oil for our joints. When we have hyaluronic acid inside of our joints are gliding along nice and smoothly. If you really want to feel what it's like, take a hyaluronic acid and water gel, put some of it in between your fingertips, and you can rub and rub and rub and rub almost forever, and you don't get any friction, and it doesn't really dry out. Well, that's what we got inside of all of our joints when we're young, and when our joints are healthy and we don't have any issues. We've got a nice cushiony fluid in there that gives our joints a nice glide, a nice smooth, free-flowing movement, and a cushioning effect too. But as we get older, we produce less and less and less and less of this hyaluronic acid. So sometimes people are walking around and they don't have as much fluid inside of their joints. And so they'll do an x-ray and they'll say, yeah, there's no fluid. The bones are just riding right on top of one another. That's not how we were intended to be. And so it's the lubrication or the fluid. We can't drive our cars without engine oil. Otherwise, the car will lock up and heat up on us. Well, we can't operate our joints without joint fluid. So that was one of the things that we wanted to do back 20 years ago when we rolled out the hyaluronic acid product, is we said, we want people to try this as a joint supplement. Give it a shot. See if it helps your joints. See if you get the cushion back. Then we had people coming to us and say, you know what, I've been taking this hyaluronic acid for my joints, but I've noticed my skin seems to be more hydrated or plump or nourished. And we started doing that research, and we said, wow, that's very interesting. Your skin has a fluid layer inside of there called the dermal fluid, and it space fills the skin. Hang on a second. I should have muted my phone. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
It's the lab phone. Keep hanging that up there real quick. So there's a fluid inside of your skin that space fills and keeps your skin nice and plump. And so we started looking at the avenues of hyaluronic acid and what it can do for the skin, where it can push the skin upward. So we mentioned that babies have hyaluronic acid in their skin. They're nice and plump. You were talking about the raisin and the grape. As we get older, our skin starts to look more and more like a raisin. We want it to look more like the grape. We want to get the skin back to that hydrating effect. So we do start to see people take hyaluronic acid by mouth internally to beautify their skin from within, to rehydrate the skin. We also see people taking body lotions, skin serums, whatever it is to rehydrate the skin. And basically that hyaluronic acid goes into the skin and it starts to pull into there, and then it plumps the skin back up. So that's the element for the skin. We also have this hyaluronic acid inside of our eyes. It stabilizes our eyes. So sometimes I'll take 2 balloons and I'll fill one up with water and I'll fill one up with syrup. And I'll say, hey, hold on to these 2 balloons, and which one has more structure or rigidness? And they'll say, the one with syrup. And I said, exactly. So you have a fluid on the inside of your eyes. It stabilizes your eyes. It keeps that fluid. That's hyaluronic acid in water. It's called the vitreous gel. And that starts to break down as we get older. And then we start to see problems with our eyes start to come about. So that's why a lot of our packaging used to say for joints, skin, and eyes, or whole body beneficial effects. But the lubrication for the joints, the space filling for the skin, and the protection and the benefit for the eyes are just some of the basic properties of how this hyaluronic acid can help.
Right, absolutely. That's cool. So really, this is the Vibrant You Health Show. So if you want to find a Vibrant You, get that. You might consider some hyaluronic acid, adding that into the body, adding that in via the skin. The skin is the biggest organ of the whole body, and it actually absorbs what you put on it. So you may consider that when we're putting things on the skin. What are the ingredients? Is that actually something I want going into my body? Is it something that's naturally occurring in the body, like a hyaluronic acid, or is it like a chemical fragrance or some kind of something made in a lab versus a naturally occurring molecule? So, I, for one, want to make sure I'm putting things on my skin that is not going to be toxic to the human body, because I know that my skin absorbs it, it takes it in, and then it's going to get into the bloodstream as well. So I'm interested. So the mouth, obviously, the mouth is one of the most moisture rich areas, of our body. And so that's interesting for oral care. I would assume the more dehydrated the mouth is, the more bacteria grows, the more disease and tooth issues and gum issues can exist. Is that what you would say as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think about it, people that have dry mouth conditions, they do start to see more and more teeth and gum problems. They start to see more cavities. It's just all about being able to cleanse and rinse any type of foreign bacteria out of the oral cavity. When you have saliva, you're keeping things lubricated. You're preventing, a bacteria from sticking to the gum line and the tissue and stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. 100% in regards to that.
Just in our last little bit here, could you talk a little bit about the different types of hyaluronic acid, and are some better than others?
Yeah, so originally, this hyaluronic acid molecule is something that's naturally occurring inside of our body. So as long as our body is producing it, and we're younger, we're producing an adequate amount. But just remember, as we get older, we produce less and less of this water thickening, hydrating, moisturizing molecule. It can bind up to 1,000 times its own weight in water. So very few other molecules out there can bind that kind of, the closest I think that you can find is glycerin. Glycerin is one of those moisturizing ingredients that you might find in some of your skincare products. It can bind up to like 60 times its own weight. But the 1,000 times its weight and water capability of this molecule is pretty amazing. And the reason why it takes on that ability to bind that water is because it's a long rope-like structure. So there's different types of molecules, and people talk about, high molecular weight or low molecular weight. What does that really mean when it comes to hyaluronic acid? Well, if I would come to Nature's Pantry, I would stand there in the aisle and I would drag like a 10-foot long rope with me, and I'd lay that rope down in the aisle, and then I'd bring like a 1-foot rope with me and I'd lay that rope down the aisle. And anybody that was there to listen to me, whether it be a consumer or staff members, I'd say, okay, so these are both molecules of hyaluronic acid, and they both bind up to 1,000 times their own weight in water. So which one do you think could bind more water? And everybody's like, oh, well, obviously the longer the rope molecule could bind more water than the smaller the rope molecule. They both can bind 1,000 times, but the one that's larger can hold more water and can create more surface area for binding to water. So we believe that a high molecular weight hyaluronic acid should be what we reintroduce back into the body, because that's what's commonly found inside of the body. So a larger molecule structure can bind more water, create more thickness or that syrupy gel, and provide the protection and the hydration and the plumpness to the body. So when people talk about high versus low molecular weight, we always recommend that you probably try to find that high molecular weight material for that benefit. And then the different sources of hyaluronic acid way back in the early 30s and early to late 30s, when there was a group of researchers that had discovered this hyaluronic acid molecule. Even though it's been around since the beginning of life, Hyalogic didn't invent this molecule. It's been around since the beginning of life, but these researchers found out about it back in the late 30s, and they were extracting it from chicken collagen. They said any elastic structure inside of a mammal, stretchy, elastic collagen structures, it's like a rubber band. Sometimes I'll stand there with a rubber band and I'll stretch it and I'll say, if I stretch this rubber band, what'll happen? And they'll say, well, it's going to dry out and break. And I say, what if I put it in a bucket of water? It can go on and on and on forever. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. And I say, the bucket of water is the hyaluronic acid. So your body maintains its elasticity and its stretchability because of the collagen fibers, but what also hydrates those collagen fibers is the hyaluronic acid. It moisturizes every elastic fiber in our body, giving us flexibility. So way back in the day, they started extracting hyaluronic acid from animal collagen. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to offer a vegan-friendly, non-animal derived source of hyaluronic acid, because a lot of people are like, I want to do the best, I want to get the best. So we started offering the vegan friendly form. It's a natural fermentation process, much like making beer, wine, yogurt. You just naturally ferment it. It produces a water shell coating of hyaluronic acid on that naturally friendly bacteria, and you just strip it off, and now you've got a pure molecule of hyaluronic acid that's more identical to what's inside of the body. Versus maybe an animal-derived material. And so this is what a lot of people are using now, is a natural fermentated form of it, because you can get the larger molecule, you can get the longer rope-like structure, whereas with the animal-derived material, you don't know what you're going to get. So we've always used a high molecular weight, vegan-friendly, non-animal derived format, because we felt like it was more equivalent to what was naturally occurring inside of the body.
That's really cool. Yeah. So it's like this little hyaluronic acid molecule is a little miracle molecule. It's a little powerhouse, and it's like we were designed to have this molecule in the body to do just what you've been describing, which is to hold water. And so I would just say in closing that, if you are someone who is struggling with joint issues, with skin issues, with eye issues, with mouth issues, with anything in the body seems dehydrated in any way, I would think adding a hyaluronic acid supplement to your regimen would help your body's natural ability to hydrate and to support these bodily functions that seem so important to our everyday lives.
Yeah, and that's why people now, we call them dietary supplements. You go into Nature's Pantry, there's a whole aisle, it says dietary supplements. That's because it's supplementing our body where our bodies are leaving off. Well, hyaluronic acid is one of those that our body kind of drops off. And again, we naturally produce it, so we're not introducing something foreign to the body. We're just putting something back into the body that was already naturally there. But we want to supplement it. We want to keep it up. And what the scientists are trying to do is figure out, why are we slowing down on the production of hyaluronic acid? If it's something that we naturally produce on a regular basis, why does our body drop off? And they're trying to figure that out. If they could figure out how to keep it being produced, then we probably wouldn't need the supplements, and we wouldn't need the skincare products, and we could probably hold off the aging process, because it really is about the hydrating of the body, I mean, you think about it, aging, we are drying out as we age. Our skin just looks shriveled, wrinkled, our flexibility, our stretchability, we just, we can't move like we used to, we just don't have the cushion in our joints.
Maybe that's one of the things our body lost the ability to do at the fall in the garden in the beginning. Another thing that's interesting on the same lines is vitamin C. Actually, a lot of animals produce their own vitamin C. Humans don't. Actually, goats will produce as much as 100,000 milligrams of vitamin C per stress incident. And they're actually looking at, there's an enzyme we miss and not making that vitamin C. And that's a really powerful antioxidant, antitoxin, antibacterial, antiviral. It supports the body's production of collagen. It helps cortisol be used by the body appropriately. There's just so many things. And so it's kind of interesting, some of these processes in the body that kind of diminish over time as we age. It's, as I've often said, there's no cure for sin, only Jesus. But we can do the best we can with what we've been given. We want to take care of it. We want to use the natural remedies and natural things that have been given us in creation to support the body's ability for health and healing. So, hey, Darren, it's been a real honor and privilege to have you on the show today. I know we could talk for another hour or two about this.
Yeah, we were
a busy guy, and
we were just getting into the scriptures. I mean, we were just getting warmed up. We could go on and on forever on that probably too, couldn't we? That would have been we could do a whole show on that. So, but yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yes, sir. And again, Darren Landis with Hyalogic, the leader in hyaluronic acid supplements. And again, it's been a great time to get to know you and get to share some of this information. Thanks to you for taking time to share with our audience, and God bless you. And thank you everybody for tuning in today. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Take care.
The information provided in this show is intended for your general knowledge only and is not medical advice. If you have or suspect you have a specific medical condition or disease, please consult your healthcare provider. If your provider has a strong understanding of nutrition and holistic health, even better. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nature's Pantry.